This is CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. Find out more and open an account online at telhio.org. Now, here's your host, Bob McElligott.
Welcome to a Monday Mailbag edition of CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. I'm Bob McElligott here in Calgary today, and no game until tomorrow. This is a trip that is spread out kind of nicely. Of course, the Blue Jackets played on Saturday night in Boston. They lost in overtime, 2-1 to the Bruins. It was a game that if you would have told me going into the game, hey, the Blue Jackets will get a point tonight, I would have said, okay, fine. Deal me in. I'm all for that. I'll take it, and I'll be happy with it. And then the way the game played out, I wasn't happy with it when it was over because I thought they were going to get the second point. They had so many chances to win that game and couldn't finish. And then, of course, Brad Marchand did finish, and that was the end of that. So getting the point was huge. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining that they did get a point. It could have been much worse. There's no doubt. But I just felt like they could have had more. And I think the team came away feeling like they could have had more. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is when you look at the stretch that the Blue Jackets just played, they played Boston twice and Carolina in the middle of those games. That was 6 possible points. They got 5 out of 6. So that is not a bad week, right? Not a bad week at all. So now it is moving on here to Western Canada and trying to get these points on the road, different time zones, blah, 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 blah. But I think they're in a good frame of mind. I like where this team is right now. Just being around them, I think they're starting to get their feel back to them, feeling like they can do the things that we have seen them do in the past, the things that we've seen them do for a long time. I think they're starting to get it back. And they need it. There's no question. They need it on this trip. So let's get right to your questions. Shall we? Find out what you have on your mind today. And we'll start with Daniel Burrows, who gets the first question. Daniel says, I recognize the whole first line has struggled, but from what you've seen, is there something going on with Artemi Panarin physically or mentally? Do you see the same compete level from him now as before the trade deadline? Daniel, I do not. And it is a glaring problem, in my opinion. Everybody says, what's wrong with the first line? Is it Dubois? Is he struggling? That's part of it. And part of Dubois' struggles are leading to Panarin having struggles. But let's go back to the game on Tuesday in Nationwide Arena against the Boston Bruins. I thought he was floating through that game, and then he got into that fight, and then he played with fire. But I am seeing him not really play with that fire that we are so used to seeing him play with until the last couple of minutes of the game, and I don't know why. And you're right, the trade deadline is a very clear marker for when this began. So my question would be, did he think he was going to get traded? Did he want traded, and then he didn't get traded, and now he's either pouting or he's going to make sure that he doesn't get hurt before free agency, or what is going on? But there is definitely something going on there. There's no question. Go back and look at the overtime goal in the game on Saturday night in Boston and see how he just follows Patrice Bergeron around and lets him just get right into position to then get the pump or get the pass over to Marchand, who pumps it behind Korpisalo. Just watch that clip, and that tells you all you need to know. No fight, no edge, no have to have the puck for Artemi Panarin. He had a better angle. He could have cut off Bergeron and cut off that play, and he didn't take it. He just lazily followed him around and let him get into position to do whatever he wants. So yes, that is a big problem. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. When for anybody that says, well, what's this team going to look like without Artemi Panarin next year? Just look at the team right now, because he's not playing. He had one shot in the game on Saturday, and it was in overtime. One shot. Why is this guy getting one shot? Because he's not trying hard enough. That's my opinion. But I think if you watch the video, it backs up my opinion. He is not putting the effort in that he was. And that's not going to help this team get to where it wants to go. He does not need to become he needs to be an asset. He doesn't need to be a liability. And he is not playing up to his level right now. And I don't know of any injury. And I've talked to people about this, and nobody has said anything about, well, this is bugging him, that's bugging him. So based on that, he's just not trying as hard as he used to. And that, I can't answer why. I can't tell you anything beyond that. Shane wants to know, any word on Nick Foligno's return? No, I don't know if he's going to be here for tomorrow or if he's going to come later in the week. I'm going to say this, and this is no offense to Nick Foligno, but Lucas Sedlak did a fine job in his place the other night. So, I know he took a penalty that resulted in a power play goal, but big deal. I thought he did an all right job there. So, yes, they miss having Nick around, but they're going to make sure they don't miss him on the ice because the guys that play have been waiting to play for weeks, and they're going to be hungry. Jay Alexanders, if you could pick a finishing position for the Blue Jackets, who do you think the ideal matchups would be in the playoffs? Tampa, Washington, Pittsburgh, Islanders. Personally, I think a rematch with the Caps wouldn't be the worst way to end up. Now, that's Jay saying that, not me. We talked about this yesterday on the bus, I think. Yeah, it was on the bus from the airport. And, yeah, going up against Tampa sounds like suicide, right? To say, let's take the best team in the National Hockey League, the team that has been the best all year, pretty much from wire to wire. Let's take them in the first round and try to win a first playoff series ever. That sounds like lunacy, right? But I don't know. Look, Washington's hit their groove right now. I think Pittsburgh's hitting their groove. They are playoff teams. They know how to be playoff teams. They've won Stanley Cups. Between the two of them, they own the last 3 Stanley Cups. Islanders would be great because I don't think they're real. I don't think what they do is going to translate into the playoffs. And you could say, well, they play shutdown hockey, and that is playoff hockey. Yeah, well, I just don't think that that run of good luck is going to stay with them through the playoffs. So maybe that one, but if they played Washington, you could have a chip on your shoulder because you had a 2-0 series lead last year and let it get away. If you play Pittsburgh, it's Pittsburgh, and you always want to beat Pittsburgh. But I don't know that there is a good matchup there. I really don't. And here's the thing. If you play Pittsburgh, then you more than likely are going to have to play Washington next. If you get into the Atlantic and you play Tampa and you can pull off the upset, then you're facing probably Boston in the second round. And that's not easy, but the Blue Jackets have played well against them. So I don't know, Jay. Just get in and then worry about it. I know that's a kind of a cheap answer, but I think that's all this team is left with. Just get in and then worry about who it is when you're in. Michael Neff says, I've been wondering about this for some time now. How many listeners do you get on average for your podcast? And do you yourself listen to any other hockey podcasts like Spitting Chicklets, 31 Thoughts, etc.? How many on average? To be honest with you, I can look at the SoundCloud numbers, but then I put it on other avenues as well. So the SoundCloud is going to sit between 1,000 and 1,500 probably, and then you add in the other platforms and all that stuff. So I haven't, quite frankly, recently I haven't gone and added it all up. We have analytics people who I would ask to do that, but they're doing some more important things now with ticketing and all that stuff. They won't get to my stuff until the summer. So as far as other podcasts, I listen to the 31 Thoughts once in a while. I got to be honest with you. The Spittin' Chicklets is, I don't know. I am not into listening to, I know it's not necessarily, or maybe it is supposed to be a professional show. I don't know. If I go to listen to something, 31 Thoughts, I know what I'm going to get. Elliot Friedman is going to give me good hockey scoops. They're going to have fun. They're going to do it in a clean way. I don't really like to listen to the podcast where they're all dirty and all that stuff. Look, all those stories are funny and they're great, and I've heard those stories for 30 years, right? Locker room stories and all that stuff. So I have a hard time with that one. I do, and so 31 Thoughts is the one that I listen to if I'm not listening to myself. And no, I don't sit and listen to this back very often. Jeremy G., how do you prep for games? I can't imagine it's easy to memorize 18 opposing players. Do you read the names on the backs? You must have thousands of names rattling around in your head. Well, you get the roster usually in the morning, or you can find it online. The great thing about once you make it to the major leagues in your sport, players stay either with the team that they're on or they move to another team, but they're still around and in the league. In the minors, there's so much turnover every year, between veteran guys going out and rookies coming in, and the teams in the league change drastically. Plus, there's just not as much coverage in the minors. So, you can come in here and turn on NHL Network and watch all the highlights and have an idea who the guys are, blah, blah, blah. So that's one thing that makes it easy. Another thing that makes it easy is a lot of guys, even when they change teams, they keep their same number if it's available. So, I am used to seeing certain players wearing look, Matt Duchene wore 95 in Ottawa. I know he wore 9 in Colorado, but see, that's telling you about the stuff I have rattling around in my head right there, right? But I knew he wore 95 in Ottawa. Dzingel wore 19, or he wore 18 there, so that one doesn't count. Forget that one. 95 there, 95 here, blah, blah, blah. So it does make it easy. I've always wanted to associate players' names and numbers from the time I was a kid, and I think I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. When I was growing up, most of the stuff was on the radio. It wasn't on TV. So I would always want to know if a new guy came into a lineup, what's his number? Because I would want to visualize that in my head. He is wearing this number. And so it served me well. I don't know why I was always interested in that. Maybe it was a harbinger of things to come. I have no idea, but it's worked out for me. Big Rig 75. Can you guarantee the Blue Jackets make the postseason? Almost. The Canadians are starting to be what I thought they were. Josh Anderson Zigo says, how do you see Alexander Texier fitting into this organization? Do you think his role will depend heavily on the outcome of what happens with our unrestricted free agents? The same thing with Elvis Merzlikins as well, since his season is over. I have another Merzlikins question that I will get to in a moment, but I want to answer the Texier thing first. He's here. He's playing in Cleveland. How is he going to fit in? It depends what he does as a pro. I think he's going to get a chance out of camp next year to see if he can make it, and if he can't, he's going to go back to the minors. Simple as that. Can we just put this all into perspective here? This guy's not a first-round pick. He's a second-round pick. The Blue Jackets didn't have a first-round pick. This is the same big show that happened when Boone Jenner was taken. Remember, the Blue Jackets didn't have a first-round pick that year. Jenner was the first player taken. Now, Jenner has worked out great. Don't get me wrong, okay? But what I'm saying to you is just back down a little bit. Just don't get overly excited. I know the organization talks about how excited they are about these prospects and all. They're still prospects. This kid is a young kid who was playing in Europe, and he's coming over for the first time. How he fits in depends upon how he plays. Simple as that. It's going to be up to him. Here's the other Elvis question I have. Jason, it seems the Blue Jackets are going to burn the last year of Elvis's entry-level contract, making him a restricted free agent on July 1st. Aside from getting a small sample size in Cleveland to see what they have in him, what justification is there for this? So let's get to the Elvis thing. He's coming. Aaron Portzline reported in The Athletic that he's coming. So whether it's on this trip or next weekend, he seems to think it's going to be next weekend. And that's because of the visa work that'll need to be done. Everybody's saying he's going to Cleveland, and he should be, and he better be, because he needs to adjust to the North American game. But I'm not 100% sure on that. And I don't know, if he doesn't go to Cleveland, what you're going to do with 4 goaltenders. I mean, again, common sense says you go to Cleveland and you play. And that's what Portzline's story is all about. But it also says Jarmo Kekalainen declined comment. So I don't know what's going on. They're making this this deal. And what if the deal is, well, he's got to be in the NHL right now and stay there? Again, I think that would be a complete waste I think he needs to go play in the minors, needs to learn. I don't care how good he was over there. The ice surface is bigger. The angles change. You've got to go learn. And that's what I hope is going to happen. But I am not 100% certain that that's going to happen. And then to add another goaltender here and have 4, it's already one too many now. So I'll be interested to see what's going to shake down there. But, look, he's an older guy. They can burn that year there and just sign him to a new contract, right? It's in the new contract isn't going to be that much money in the long run because he has 0 experience in the NHL. So, but he needs to play. He needs to play at this level. I mean, not this level, not the NHL level. He does need that maybe next year, but he needs to figure out the angles here. My opinion. Again, it's all my opinion. And I hope that he goes, I am such a proponent of guys going to the minors. Look what Zach Werenski went and helped lead a Cleveland team to a championship, right? Carey Price came into Hamilton, Ontario after his junior year and took the Hamilton Bulldogs to the Calder Cup championship in the American Hockey League. And look what he's done ever since. So I'm a huge proponent of that. Huge. Next question coming from Jason Scope. Given the circumstances this year with management's aggressive all-in moves made at the trade deadline, do you think it's imperative the Blue Jackets avoid playing Tampa in the first round? No, I don't think it's imperative, Jason. First of all, I don't think the Tampa Bay Lightning wins the Stanley Cup. There it is. I think I've said it before, but if I haven't, there it is. I don't think they win. I think if you play them physical and you forecheck them hard and you wear them down over the course of a series, that you're going to beat them. I know they have a great goaltender. I know they've got great offensive talent. But if you grind them out for a 7-game series, and I mean just constant pressure, constant. If you try to go skill on skill, you're going to lose. If you play gritty, hard forecheck, you're going to win. That's what I think over the course of 7 games. This is not like the regular season where, they're the best in the league, so everybody they're playing doesn't have as many points as they do. But for them to play a team like Ottawa, it's a joke, right? They're going to beat them just by showing up. The moment the skates are laced, Ottawa's lost and Tampa has won. That's just the way it is. So when's the last time they've been challenged? But you might have Boston one day if you're Tampa. Maybe you have Boston, that's a tough game, and then you have Ottawa the next day. That's an easy game. Like I said, just show up and you win it. It's not like that in the playoffs. Now it's the same guys every day. They're coming at you every day, and they know what you did yesterday, and they're going to counter what you did yesterday, and it's just completely different. So they are beatable. So there is, and I'm telling you, again, Washington and Pittsburgh own the last 3 Stanley Cups. So if you want to get into that, you want to play one of those teams or you want to play a team that has no Stanley Cups since 2004, right? Again, I know it's crazy. I know it sounds idiotic. But that might be, the choice might be made for you it's going to be made for you by your play between now and the rest of the season anyway. Let's see. Jody says, not a question, but I wanted to say I'm glad you've kept CBJ and 30 going for the past few years. Really the best and only sports podcast I listen to. Have been a faithful listener since the start. Thank you very much for that. It's that's nice. That's nice. I do appreciate that. It's you don't hear that often, so it's appreciated. Here's another one. Since the line mix-ups, is it just me, or does Riley Nash seem to have found a new energy level playing with Boone and Nick? Riley Nash has found a new energy level since he got healthy scratched, and he has maintained that new level, thankfully. And, yes, he's doing okay on that line right now, but that's where the motivation came from. Make no mistake about it. Healthy scratches will get your attention, especially when you're a veteran like him. Next one from Robbie Weaver. Will this Western Canada road trip right before the end of the season give Carolina and Montreal an edge on us in the race for points? Robbie, we take this trip every year at this time. Every year at this time, we're on this trip. So, look, it's easy for people in the media to talk about the daunting road trip coming. We do it every year. I don't see what the big deal is. I don't see what it is. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you who the Hurricanes play. Okay, so while the Blue Jackets are out here playing Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, Carolina gets Pittsburgh, Tampa, Minnesota, and Montreal all at home. 4-game homestand. That's pretty nice. Then after that, they have Washington back-to-back. They still have another game against Pittsburgh. They have Philly. Anyway, but let's just go on this road trip, okay? They've got 4 games. Blue Jackets have 3. Pittsburgh, Tampa, Minnesota, Montreal. The Canadians are at Philadelphia, host the Islanders, host the Sabres. That's an easy one. And then play at Carolina. So I say, you're asking, does that give them a chance to pick up points? No. No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Eric with a K, and that's literally how it reads on the screen, Eric with a K, has this question. Of the Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton airports, which is your favorite and which is the worst? Well, Eric, this is going to be a disappointing answer to your question. And it's going to be disappointing because I have no idea what any of those airports look like. 0. Now, if you're saying to yourself, you just flew in there, how can you not know what the airport looks like? We don't fly in and go through the main terminal. We fly into a private terminal. You know, you land on the runway, you go to a private terminal, and you just climb off the plane, get into a bus, and go. So I don't know what any of those airports look like on the inside. I don't know how busy they are. I don't know if they have enough coffee stands. I don't have any idea. None. I'm trying to think if we went through the one in Vancouver to clear customs one time, but I think that was Winnipeg. Or maybe Vancouver too. But for the most part, we just go, just like in Columbus. We don't go through the main terminal. We just get on at the private terminal, out the door, up the steps, on the plane, go. I know, it sounds very spoiled and very selfish and all that stuff, and it is. It absolutely, positively is. I'm not going to lie. Now, if you want me to talk about the cities, see, Calgary, this is not a bad place to have a couple of days. In fact, Dave Metzold from Fox Sports Ohio has rented a minivan today, and Kenny McCudden, the Blue Jackets assistant coach, sold me on this yesterday. Dave is driving up to Banff, which is up in the mountains, Canadian Rockies, probably, I don't know, an hour or so. And then Lake Louise, which is another hour out. And because my thing was, I don't know if I want to go sit in a car for 2 hours each way today and go somewhere. But Kenny McCudden told me he did it 2 years ago, and it was fantastic. And the weather is much warmer on this trip than it was that trip where he went there. So he said, you're crazy if you don't go. So I think he's talked me into it. He has. I could back out at the last second, but he's pretty much talked me into it. So Calgary's a good city. Jody Shelley always refers to it kind of as the Denver of Canada. That's what Calgary is. So this is not a bad place to be for a couple of days. Edmonton is the one that nobody likes to go to because it's not very big. It's usually cold. Again, we're getting warm weather on this trip, which is nice and unusual. Edmonton is small, and there's not that much to do, and that's the one that people like to get in and out of. But then Vancouver is fantastic, and we've got a day off there on Friday, and you're on the water. And, yes, it's going to rain because it rains all the time, but just a nice city. A lot of things going on, a lot of great restaurants, and there's a mall right across from the hotel, and As I said, you can walk down to the water and all that stuff. So that's the cities. I can tell you all about the cities. But Eric with a K, when it comes to the airports, I don't know. And I'm thankful for that. I'm also thankful for all of your questions today on this Monday Mailbag edition of CBJ in 30, presented by Telhio Credit Union. And speaking of Telhio Credit Union, go to their website. I was looking through their website the other day because they're, when I'm going to talk about them, there are things that I want to know too. So I went to telhio.org. I started looking around and just looking at the tabs at the top that gives you the information that you're looking for, how to become a member, what benefits there are to being a member, what kind of personal banking accounts that they offer, loans and credit that they offer for you personally or for your business too. They do business banking, business services, business loans. You can apply for a loan right online. Got vehicle loans, mortgage loans, home equity and improvement loans, personal loans, debt consolidation loans, all kind of good stuff. It's all right there. It's all there. You want to know what their rates are? You just click on rates, look for the personal rates, the business rates. And if you want to know why you should join Telhio, and if you don't just get it from listening to me, there's a tab on the website, Why Telhio? And you just go down through it, and it'll give you all these different things. What is a credit union? Become a member. Financial fitness workbook. It's all right there. It's at your fingertips. You can access it anytime at telhio.org. Or you can do it the old-fashioned way and stop by any local office. Either way, you're going to find out the information that you need and find out if becoming a member of Telhio Credit Union is right for you. Telhio Credit Union is open to everyone in central and southwestern Ohio. They are federally insured by NCUA. Blue Jackets back on the ice tomorrow. Well, they'll practice today, but they're on the ice for a game tomorrow in Calgary against the Flames. The Flames have been terrific this year. They're sitting atop the Pacific Division coming into play tomorrow. They are very good. This is going to be a big test for the Blue Jackets. This should be the only test on this road trip when you look at records. However, as we know, the Blue Jackets have lost to the other two teams they're going to play after this one. But Calgary's got 95 points. They are atop the West, and they're battling to stay ahead of San Jose. So they've got a lot to play for tomorrow night. So tomorrow, what will I have for you? Of course, I will have a game day edition of CBJ in 30 presented by Telhio Credit Union. So until then, enjoy the rest of your Monday. I'm Bob McElligott saying so long.